This morning I wanted to go over the top 4 reasons why your kayak paddles like a barge. Now I know this may not be a popular topic, and some of you are not going to like what I have to say, but I figure I'm pretty much will hit 49 and I'm probably at the apex of my popularity, so it's only downhill from here. So I'm just going to start telling the truth, and sometimes the truth is a painful thing. But to me, I was paddling the other day thinking about it, and I came up with 4 good reasons why most people think their kayak paddles like a barge. Number 1, I absolutely hate to hear somebody say that, paddle like a barge. To me, that's like hearing somebody say game changer. It just brings bile up in my system, because that phrase, both of them just, one, have you ever paddled a barge? I sincerely doubt it. So anyway, my thoughts first, number 1 is going to be you're overestimating your boat. Now, when you think about what kayak manufacturers have had to go through the last, just say 7, 8 years, for the longest time kayaks were only about paddling. Paddle, paddle, paddle. That's what we did. Now Hobie had their gig, everybody else paddled. So all they had to worry about was making a decent paddling boat. Well, onset of kayak fishing got stronger, tournament fishing got stronger. Now everybody wants to stand in their boats. So kayaks had to be wider, more stable, because people were falling out of boats. Manufacturers don't like to hear people falling out of boats, so they had to make them wider to stand. Wider boats do not paddle as fast as a narrow boat. It's just not possible. Now, you can have a boat that does both pretty good, but you're not going to have one that does one great and the other great. You're not going to have a wonderful paddling boat that stands awesome. You're going to have a trade-off. That's the way it is. Whatever you take from this side, you're going to have to give on this side. So having a boat that you overestimate is one thing. If you paddle a wider boat like the Liska or the Rig or something like that, and now this is not Jackson, guys, this is not sanctioned by Jackson, this isn't against Jackson, this is Chris. I have paddled all kinds of boats, multiple manufacturers, and I love a lot of boats. I'm just a boat hoe, so I like them all. The thing that I don't like is hearing somebody that on a well-designed boat complain about how it paddles when I know that most likely the problem is not that boat. When I paddle this boat, especially alone, I don't have a reference for speed. Now, if I paddled this boat with somebody in a Kraken or a Kilroy DT that are super fast, or a Cuda 14, I might think, well, gee, this boat's slow. Well, you know what? This boat is super wide. You're not going to do in a Cuda 14 what you could do in this boat. You're not going to do it unless you're, somebody that's built like a spider monkey. I'm not. You can plainly see that. So, overestimating your boat, being comfortable with the speed that your boat will paddle is more important than winning a race, to me, personally. Number 2 reason that your boat's paddling like a barge is, are you using it like a barge? I mean, literally, we go from fishing in these things, just loaded up with hundreds of pounds of gear, and then we want to put all that in here, electronics, all of our gear, enough water for 3 days on, snacks, whatever. We have all that. Now we've added our weight plus another 100 pounds of gear. Guys, there's a workable load limit and a safe load limit. Most kayak manufacturers list their safe load limit. But once you get up to a workable load limit, beyond that, it's no different than me throwing a 60-pound sack over one shoulder and walking with it. I can pretty much well do what I need to do with that 60-pound sack. I can go up steps, I can do whatever. I throw another 60-pound sack on this shoulder, you better believe I'm going to have to watch my step, I'm going to have to take it easy, and I'm going to wear out a whole lot faster. When you start pushing this hull down in the water with all that extra weight, yeah, it's going to push back at you, and that's creating resistance, therefore the barge-like paddle. But it's most likely our fault from overloading the boat. Check your weight ratings, check what you're carrying, and see, are you part of the problem? Now, another thing is weight distribution. If you put everything up in the front, it's going to put the nose down, you're going to paddle with a wobble. That's the reason, guys, if you've got a heavier bride and you paddle in a tandem boat, I hate to say it, but don't put her up front, because you're going to paddle like that. Get her real close to you. Say, honey, I need you as close as possible to me, because I want to be right up here with you. Get her as close as you can. That weight distribution will change. That boat will paddle much better. It will not be barge-like anymore. All right, number 3, and probably the most important to me, is the paddle form. Now, I see a lot of people that really need to go and check out some of like EJ's paddle basics. Just get online, look up some really good paddle strokes and practice them. I see a lot of people with their hands shoulder width apart, paddling, you know, either like this or just it's all arms. Guys, the correct paddle stroke, especially for these bigger boats, is going to be a little bit wider than your shoulder. Get out, get good, comfortable. Come as far in as you can, get that paddle down in the water, bring and stroke with all this. Now, if I'm paddling just my arms, hey, them muscles ain't nothing anymore. Them muscles don't do it. All this, now I've got something. So I'm doing an entire torso stroke. I'm also pushing with my feet against the pedals, and I'm using my entire body. So I can keep this boat at speed for nearly ever, but I mean, just keep going with that stroke. If you're doing just your little arms like this, yeah, you are going to wear out. Next thing you're going to say coming out your mouth is, it paddles like a barge. Well, like I said, watch a good paddler. Watch Jim Sammons. Jim Sammons has been pushing bigger boats in huge surf, strong current, wind for years and years and years. You watch that man's technique and you'll pick up some stuff. And I have, because that's I fished with him, and that's kind of where I've learned some of these greater strokes that I've learned, that fishing with EJ. But the beauty is there's enough of that stuff online that you and I could pick up on and learn from. Check out your stroke, see if it's hurting you or helping you. Think about this. This is the reason I brought the big boat out. You are this. You're the outboard motor. Now, this is your prop. This is your prop. All right, if you only put half of that prop in the water, imagine running this with only half that prop in the water. No, that ain't gonna work. We ain't going nowhere. We'll go forward, but we ain't going forward fast, and we're gonna wear something out, and I'm gonna be out some money. But you don't run with just half your prop in the water. The other thing is, if you do get it all the way in the water, but you only do a little tiny strokes, imagine only running this half the time. You know, it's not gonna push this thing very fast, very far, just running half the time. If you only get 2 foot of that stroke instead of 5 feet of that stroke, I know it's not half, I do math, but I'm just saying, if you only get that short stroke instead of doing the full stroke, it's going to affect your forward momentum, it's going to affect your physical strength, it's going to affect your mental stuff, because you're not going anywhere with a little old baby stroke. I see that with a lot of beginners, either a paddle upside down, which is this not designed like this, it needs to be this way, all right? Paddle upside down or a crummy paddle stroke. Guys, it's something we can all work on, guys and gals. It's something we can all work on. You know, it just takes a little bit of getting that torso involved in it. You'll find your entire core working on it. You will not tire faster, you'll pull harder, and you'll get there faster. Now, while I've got the paddle, this is number 4. And in full disclaimer mode, you guys know I work with bended branches. I love this paddle. Now, I loved bended branches before they got me to work with them. So, beyond that, bended branches could fire me tomorrow, which I don't actually work for money for them. I'm just a content generator, whatever you want to call me. Bended branches could say, hey, Chris, we don't need you no more tomorrow. And other than some hurt feelings towards them, I would still use this company because I absolutely love this paddle. Tougher than woodpecker lips, and it's over 100 square inches of paddle surface. It does what I need to. It moves a big butt in a big boat forward. You know, that's what you got to think about in your paddles. Now, back again to the prop. This is a 19 pitch prop. Now, you can get these in 13, 17, 19, I think 21, multiple different configurations. The configuration differences are going to be whether or not you need low end torque for pulling a skier up, or whether you want, you know, high end to get to the fishing holes faster, whether you need hole shot. There's a lot of different configurations in the prop. Well, that's the same thing with paddles. You need to figure out what paddle works best for you in your setup. Now, just like you guys, I started out with the cheapest thing I could get away with. Aluminum, heavy, you know, oh my gosh, I can't even think about it. The best way I can tell you, I'm not going to bag on your paddle. I'm not. But the best thing I can tell you to do is paddle with somebody that has a good name brand paddle. You know, I know Mr. Jim uses Werner. They're excellent paddles. I like them a whole lot. I just started with branches. I love these, and these are the ones that I'm using. But find you somebody that you fish with all day long using your, I'm not going to call them cheap, inexpensive paddle, okay? Your cost-saving paddle. Paddle all day long with that paddle, then pick up theirs and take a few strokes with it. Enlightenment. Woo! There will be genies popping out of stuff. I'm telling you, that's what sold me on this, all right? Then you get the fact that this thing is well over 100 square inches. There is zero flex to it. So when I'm in the water digging, It's just like mud grips. It's gripping the water. I'm not slipping, I'm not fluttering, I'm not flexing, I'm not losing my power. So all of my core strength and arm strength and leg strength is going into that forward motion. I'm not losing it going forward. I see guys that have $1,000 boats, who knows how much other gear, go out and buy the first paddle they can get to at a big box store. And it's like, dude, you are totally wrecking your entire experience. I promise you, let's say, I would do a whole lot other stuff cheaper before I would do a cheap paddle or a cheap seat. Just say it. A decent paddle will change the way you paddle. It'll change your experience, and you'll no longer say, man, this thing paddles like a barge. Guys, I paddled the big rig, which to me should be the most barge-like. Now, you know what? When I try to push it beyond what it's designed to go at, I'm going to build a head wake on the front of it. It's going to look like a barge, and it may feel like a barge. But when I'm paddling at my capacity, comfortable paddling, going where I want to go, I can paddle that boat all day long. I've done 50 miles in 3 days in a Coosa HD. I've had this one all over the world. You know, I paddled a Coosa FD all over Panama for an entire day out in the Pacific Ocean, and it's all in a good paddle stroke, core, all that good stuff. Just think about you in particular. So when you look at your boat and say, oh my gosh, it paddles like a barge, question why. Because manufacturers these days don't build barges anymore. And I don't care what manufacturer they don't build barges anymore. Most of them are well designed, hydrodynamically designed, and if you say your boat paddles like a barge, the chances are the problem is the loose nut behind the paddle. So think about a few of these tips. If you've got any other tips, feel free to drop them in the comments. You know, I hope you agree with me. If you disagree with me, hey, tell me why. I'd like to see it. You know, like I said, I ain't above being unpopular if it helps somebody out. So y'all take care. I hope this did help.